Hello everyone, it's Seiji and today I will be talking about Common Sense by Thomas Paine. This is book number 10 of the Penguin Great Ideas series, and this is a series in which they basically have books that had a profound impact on the world. This is my first book and I really enjoyed it, so that's why we're going to be talking about it. I'd like to start off by adding some context because if you're like me and didn't grow up in the States, you might not know this book, and for that we will have to go back to the 1700s in America. The Founding Fathers was a group of philosophers, writers and politicians who led the American Revolution against the Kingdom of Great Britain. America at the time was of course a colony of the British. Either way, some of the most famous members were Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and George Washington. Amongst this group there was also this philosopher and political theorist called Thomas Paine. He is best known for inspiring the Patriots in 1776 to declare independence from Britain by writing two of the most influential pamphlets at the start of the American Revolution. And one of those was this one, Common Sense. When my country, into which I had just set my foot, was set on fire about my ears, it was time to steer. It was time for every man to steer. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. The book starts off strong with this passage. Perhaps the sentiments contained in the following pages are not yet sufficiently fashionable to procure them general favour. A long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives it a superficial appearance of being right, and raises at first a formidable outcry in defence of custom. That is something I feel that is still very prevalent within our society. The normalization of customs and behaviors that are actually problematic, but yet due to their long existence are accepted. And when people oppose these, they often meet immediate and fierce backlash instead of acceptance of a proposed dialogue. Paine continues by highlighting what he sees as the shortcomings of the English Constitution. But before he does that, he makes a clear distinction between society and government. Society is produced by our wants and government by our wickedness. The former promotes our happiness positively by uniting our affections, the latter negatively by restraining our vices. Basically saying that we do better living together in a state of mutual dependence, but due to our nature of not being completely virtuous beings, we have the government as a necessary evil to keep us in check. And I personally never made that distinction in my mind, so I thought that was very refreshing. With regards to the English Constitution, Paine explains how it is based on republican elements and two old forms of government, namely the monarchy and aristocracy. Paine goes on to talk about how these parts are actually quite contradictory. Definitely seeing how the House of Commons, which is a part of the British Parliament, as he writes, depends on the righteousness of the freedom of England, basically saying that the people who are in that house have been elected democratically, whereas a monarchy and an aristocracy are hereditary. He drives home this dichotomy with the following example. To say that the Commons is a check upon the king presupposes two things. First, that the king is not to be trusted without being looked after, or in other words, that a thirst for absolute power is the natural disease of monarchy. Secondly, that the commons by being appointed for that purpose are either wiser or more worthy of confidence than the crown. But as the same constitution which gives the commons the power to check the king by withholding the supplies, gives afterwards the king a power to check the commons, by empowering him to reject their other bills. It again supposes that the king is wiser than those whom it has already supposed to be wiser than him. A mere absurdity. He goes on to give reasons as to why monarchy and aristocracy are bad, such as hereditary succession. To the evil of monarchy we have added that of hereditary succession, and as the first is a degradation and lessening of ourselves, so the second, claimed as a matter of right, is an insult and imposition on posterity. For all men being originally equals, no one by birth could have a right to set up his own family in perpetual preference to all others forever. And then later he says, because such an unwise, unjust, unnatural compact might, open brackets, perhaps, closed brackets, in the next succession put them under the government of a rogue or a fool. In the rest of the pamphlet, Paine basically talks about why America should revolt at that time, looking at its capabilities and stuff like that. Seeing with how much passion Paine wrote this pamphlet, I can definitely understand why it had such a huge impact. One of the things that actually bothered me was how Paine was talking about how the British were exploiting the US for their own gain and how that was so extremely unfair. But at the same time, the people in the US did the same thing and even worse to the Native Americans and the slaves that they had. Also, one of the things that I was surprised to learn was that Paine had written this when he had only been a few months in the US. Either way, that's everything I have to say concerning common sense. I really enjoyed doing research and learning more about American history, so yeah, I'm very happy that I picked this book up. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.